about it probably after the show. But,
Well,
all right.
well, the good thing is we are live, so we'll wait for everyone to kind of get in here,
Mhm.
all that sort of stuff. I'll make an intro and a countdown timer for everyone. But yeah, Devin the Gamer is live, so you might get a chance to tweet it out. Go ahead and tweet it out. All that stuff, share. Guys, I guess if they don't catch it live, we're always going to post it on your channel later, right? So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep, we'll definitely do that. We'll I don't know. We'll find out what day I'll get the chance to put it up there. But yeah, no, it'll definitely get uploaded on Xbox. But we'll definitely get that chance. I regrettably I thought that I was going to be out of YouTube prison uh this week, but I looked at it wrong. I had it mixed up with my dates that I was supposed to go check out and see uh my doctor, and it's not until the 23rd of this month. So ugh, that sucks. So, but yeah, so I still can't do live shows over there on YouTube yet, not until the 23rd. So, and then that's when I'll go ahead and I'll let people know about where we'll um, show the GRG gear and all that stuff. And then of course on Don's he got his gear that pops up, so check out his stuff and all that. So anyway, man, without further ado, let's get to it, man. Welcome to the Dev and the Gamer. Um, we've been doing this more frequently. It's fun. Me and Don just last night got done completing all of the Halos on Legendary mode, and that was fun. The only problem on my end is that it didn't register on my achievements, which I'm not the biggest achievement whore, but because we had to go
You've
through
earned that.
ODST, yeah, I earned
You've
it and I
earned it,
want it.
and you
I
played through a
want it.
game without a run button. I mean, that's just how it is, man. I feel really bad for you. I mean, I think you need to add hashtag save lock to 343, and you also need hashtag where's my achievement.
Yeah, I
In
probably
regards
have
to that.
to because it shows, and it's weird because it shows that co-op it's completed on Legendary, but solo it's nothing because I haven't played ODST on the Master Chief Collection. I only played it on disc. So it's and I didn't beat that game at that time on Legendary. It was just regular normal mode. So I don't know. It's one of those things. It's pretty crazy. But regardless, just got to deal with it. People got to see it on the stream. We streamed it last night. We played the whole game from top to bottom. So it was fun. It was interesting. And then there was some times that we were kind of like, oh my god, we got to walk across this place, this platform without no run button. I do
Yeah,
miss it.
yeah, and then you have like one of like the AI things in the background of the city goes, please walk, don't run, and you're like, don't rub it in, like
Yeah,
just just let us
yeah,
play,
yeah.
and it's kind of how all that stuff works in regards to that.
Yeah, no doubt
Uh,
about it, no doubt about it. But
Absolutely.
regardless of that, how you been, Don? What's been going on with you? What's new? What's happening?
Man, I'm taking the week off, doing a little bit more streaming. So if you guys see the notifications pop up here and there, if you follow me on Mixer, that's the reason why. I work hard so I can play hard, right? So I mean that's just kind of how I am. So yeah, this week is all about playing games and sharing it with you guys and having a good time. So
Nice, nice. And some of the topics is going to be kind of heartfelt, kind of, on the kumbaya side, and then there's going to be some other topics that tonight that I definitely want to talk about that probably will not be, you know, might not, K-Mega might not be your biggest fan because I brought up this today on Twitter, and it I don't know. People like to make things into bigger than what it actually is because I asked a question, gave
okay.
my opinion on it. But regardless, we'll talk about that here a little bit later. But first, let's start off with the kumbaya stuff because for the last couple of weeks, it's been trying. That's the
You
whole thing
you
about
mean
it.
you mean the softer side of Devin the Gamer is what you're
Yes,
saying
the
right now?
softer side of Devin the Gamer. Let's go ahead and do that. And
Okay.
uh, so let's go ahead and talk about this. But yeah, I mean, if unless you've been living under a rock, there's been a lot of situations that was going on between race relations, as far as with the police department, things like that. And then of course the situation that happened with Mr. Floyd. They just buried him today. I did sit back and watch his funeral. Very touching, heartfelt, especially as a person of color. It's been one of those things that's been it's been rough. It's been trying. I've went to a couple of well, I went to a rally. We're going to have another rally out here sometime next week, I believe. I'm definitely going to go because as a person of color, I have to stand up for this movement. I just have to, not because it's just because of just everything for the history and the things that I've been through personally, and for family and friends and anybody else that's been going through this situation. Not going out to say that um, all police officers are bad, because I know some police officers. My father-in-law is police. But the fact of it is that we need people to speak out. We have to do it. And so anyway, instead of talking about that aspect of it, which is very passionate, talk about the gaming side of it, which is which is why gaming is so important. The whole thing about how to put, how gaming has gotten everybody together. It's one of these things where, of course, it's separated by social media. Of course, you have fools on the internet that likes to say racist things, homophobic things, talk bad about elderly, crippled people, things like that. That
People that
that never
feel
really
empowered to hide behind a
right.
screen, sort of thing. Gotcha. Yeah.
Absolutely. But the one thing here is that the gaming is really in is it's if you really think about it, you don't really care as long as they're your friend that you talk to on, if it's not every night, or it's, at least once a week, whatever. But the bond between gaming, it goes beyond color, it goes beyond gender, race, all of that. So, Don, I want to hear your thoughts about this, man. I mean, what is it that what it means to you for what gaming brings to that's beyond race and all of that. What is your thoughts about it?
It's one of those things like your everyday life, right? Like there's some people that put their outward appearance first, and there's some people that put the person first. And I think what gaming really does is it puts the true person first, right? And all those things that divide us individually, those are addressed way down the road, right? After you guys are brothers in arms, playing through a Halo match, or sharing an experience in a party chat, or what I mean, those things. I think when one of the biggest weapons against the all this frustration that everyone's kind of going through is it's putting the person first over everything else, and then when that happens, those friendships, those bonds can happen. In regards to that, and I've seen the most oddest people become friends, but because they started on a premise that they had a mutual shared fun experience, and it's also a fun experience, right? It's fun, it's trialing, it's all the above, in regards to that, and just that's what's unique about it. I think the only other thing outside of gaming that does that really is people are serve together like brothers, true brothers in arms.
Hmm.
And I would say the only other thing that comes even remotely close, I mean, those are really kind of the things I can think of is, brothers in arms, gaming, and sports. Those are the bonding things that brings us together. I think I can only speak from being an American and being here in the United States. That those are the things that come to mind. But I think this the bonds of gaming is it's bigger. It's bigger than that. I think it's bigger than the other two. To be honest with you, because it's just even though it's the man behind the screen, you get to see the true person too, right? Like if they're really feel empowered to be a good person, they're going to be a more good person in that environment, right? If they're a bastard, right, they're going to be more of a bastard behind that screen, and I think you get get to know the real people through gaming. I think that's something that's very very powerful, and it's something that's even on couch co-op it's been there, but I think it's something that's even bigger and even newer when it comes down to I really think to online gaming. I think online gaming really does empower that. That's always been my take on it. In regards to that, I think you look at our groups of friends; they're all over the spectrum,
Oh yeah,
and we don't
yeah,
care, you
yeah.
know, in regards to that stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, Lemon just popped in. He didn't know that we was going to do the show, and he just popped in. probably most likely want to talk a little trash, and because I haven't really talked to him since uh, early last week when we was having a heart to heart about some stuff. And I mean, it's been really crazy for me because I've for the relationships that I've gained through gaming, um, to listen to somebody like Core hit me up and ask me about the whole situation and how he felt, and for for Megatron to hit me up, and for me and Lemon when we was talking about it, and listen to other people that's hit me up and talked about it that's not YouTubers or streamers or anything, just regular people. It was meaningful, especially for the for people to understand my frustrations, or want to try to understand my frustrations, but they cared enough because of just our connection with gaming. It brought something to the table, just like, whoa, you know what, it is. Gaming is not just this cesspool of garbage where people are just saying the most foul, disgusting things to you. It's genuine friendship, and even though we're from different parts of the country or the world, we all have this common bond. That's gaming, and that's the beautiful part of it, is that it brings us together. And I can't appreciate um, gaming enough, because it's got me through a lot of situations where um, you know
The
just mentally, it's just I be
Don.
on a whole nother level with some things. Um, so yeah, no, I really think that it brings us together in so many ways, more so than what other people actually really think. And again, like you said, Don, it's the
Does it kind of catch people off guard? I think is what
it
it does
catches, yeah,
too. You
yeah,
can
because
like
it's like,
you don't have your guard up.
yeah, like,
You
I mean, you
don't.
could,
Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
you could, no, I was just gonna say, you couldn't see in person, like a person like, let's say, I don't know, bloody knuckles, you know, hanging around somebody like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of somebody completely to the opposite, like 100 or somebody, or
Or me. Yeah, I'm on the opposite end
or
of the
just the,
spectrum, right?
the
So
biggest thing right here is me and you.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? We're completely different. Oh, and you know what I'm saying? Almost, well, we thought we were, because there's a lot of things we agree on, but
like we were like politically we're totally opposite ends of the
right,
spectrum. Like
right,
our experiences are opposite ends of the spectrum. Like
hmm,
I think there's some commonality. I think we both kind of grew up poor, in
yes,
regards to that.
yes,
So that's sort of commonality there. But those commonalities, those conversations don't come up unless those guards are down, right?
hmm,
And those opportunities to look at each other, as the same, really only comes from those where you don't have your guards up, right? Both sides. It like takes both sides, in regards to that. So, and I've always had I grew up in California, right? So I've always had a mixed group of friends in regards to that. I always felt comfortable with everyone being different than me. That's just kind of how I grew up, right? Um, but gaming helps aid that, right? And it's not like it doesn't become an agenda thing or anything like that. We just happen to be both playing the same game, or we hop in the same party chat. I mean, I think both me and Mega met each other through bot of all
yeah,
people, right? Like
yeah,
who would ever figured that one out? I mean, to be honest with you, so that's just kind of how all that stuff works. And you know, eh, when everyone's kind of going through these tough times, and everyone's got a friend that's going through some of this, and it's affecting them differently. You know, think about those times you game with somebody that is going through this stuff, right? On both sides, and just kind of remember we're all in it together. And there's gonna be tough times, but there's gonna be some good times, and gaming's gonna be just one of those things. I know it sounds like kind of like a very preachy thing, but it truly is like one of those things. And it's until something like this happens, you don't really reflect on it,
hmm,
if that makes any sense. So that's kind of always been my take on it, and it's just I always look forward to gaming with other people. I mean, it's just how it's always has been. You know what I mean? So
yeah. That's been the actual first thing for me, to where it broke the ice for me talking to anybody outside of my race, because I've been around predominantly black people, just everywhere. Like, I mean, I grew up on, as a country boy, just out in the sticks. And then when we started moving, closer and closer to the city, then the first thing that got me introduced with anybody that didn't look like me, or was uh was video games. Was I can't remember the name of that game, but it was a game where it was an arcade game. All I could tell you was it was a person on a skyscraper, and the person was trying to stay on the skyscraper, and you had to avoid people shutting the window. I have to go back and look and see what game that was, but that was the arcade game, and so it was a two-player game, and me and this white kid, we were playing and we were sharing each other's quarters. Now
Oh, I
you know,
remember this story.
yeah,
Yeah, this
I'm not going to go
this
into the full
this
story,
story
but
it took a dark turn, but
yeah. It took a dark
but
turn, but
but your the
that was
earlier moments is
yes.
it comes from that, right? So
Hmm.
like yeah, it's just one of those things. It's just guards are down. I think with gaming, and there's a common goal too. I think that's a big part of it too, is having a
Hmm.
common goal. That's it's not about that stuff. It's about whatever, you know, saving the day, whatever. It sounds kind of corny and silly, but that's really kind of your goal, right? I
Hmm.
mean, what is it? The next game we're planning on, I think, really playing is probably that new Assassin's Creed, if the co-op rumor is true.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're probably going to be digging deep into that one, but it's just kind of how that stuff goes, right? Like, one night you can be playing with Mega, and another night you can be playing with like Bloody from GRG, or because it's a game that he's interested in, or playing our friends from Next, and you
Yeah.
know, just how all that stuff goes. So
I'm looking at the Sleepy Goblin. He's saying, was it Rampage? No, it wasn't Rampage. That was no. I know what Rampage was. This was, man. I'm gonna look it up while when Don gets to talking, and
I
I'll
I remember
figure out what it
playing a
was.
game that fits that description. It's called Alley Cat.
It could been that. I don't
What
know.
did you ever play Alley Cat?
I don't know. I can't remember if I
what
did.
what what it was is the whole premise. It was like an older 2D side scroller. What it was is it had see these clotheslines that would move right different directions. There was like three lines of it, and the goal was to get into the windows of these houses, the steel stuff, and then pop back out. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
And so you would basically you claw yourself from uh, from linen to linen to get over there, and then people were constantly this was a bad neighborhood because there people were throwing stuff out their window all day long, like boots,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Keep
all
going.
sorts of stuff like that. I need to find Alley Cat. That was a ridiculous game.
I'm looking. I'm finna typing it up right now. Yeah, Alley Cat sounds kind of similar. Nope. Crazy Climber. That was the name of the game. Crazy Climber.
Really,
That's the name of the game.
I'll
Yep.
I'll
I
put
just
it in the chat for everyone.
all right. Yeah. Crazy Climber. It was and it was two player, and it was so I assumed that it was two player. It may have been one player. I can't. I just remember that me and it was actually it was a little white girl, and me and her kept on um sharing quarters with each other. And because when she died, I gave her my quarter back and forth because we was trying to get it. And I had my thoughts in my head that it was two player, but no, it was actually we just kept taking turns. But that's the game right there. That is the game right there. Yeah. Dang, Crazy Climber. I would have never figured it out unless I just Googled it. But yeah, no, that's just the beautiful thing about it. It's just like if you really just get into just gaming with somebody, it doesn't really matter who they are on the other side, unless, like Don said, unless they're a bastard, unless you can tell that they're no good, that they're about agendas, that they just want to start trouble. Those type of people you just don't even want to be around in person, unless you got some kind of freaky fetish. I have no idea, but I don't want to be around those type of people. I'd rather be around people that I could just sit back and chill and talk, and we could talk trash, have a good time, we could clown a little bit, and just game and enjoy each other and tell our experiences with one another. Gaming is really opened that door. Um, it's just like what you said. I don't think a lot of people really get it because it's just probably just like it's like everyday life when you turn on your Xbox or your PlayStation or whatever. You jump on Discord or whatever that you jump on and just start chatting with people. It's just like you talking to your friends and that's it. And y'all tell each other's personal situations and things like that. And and just have a good time, man. So, gaming does open up a lot of doors, and even though there's still bad elements within it, but there's a lot more positive, I think, than negative.
I mean, that comes down to anything. Like, don't let the percentage of bad eggs out there represent you, right? Like as a
Hmm.
gamer, like, and that goes with anything that we're kind of dancing around right now. Like, don't let the bad eggs represent what you represent, right? Be the best example of what you are, in regards to that. I think gaming that just brings it out into even more. So, it's one of those things. It's in these trial times, I think it's something you guys, I mean, something that we all can rely on, I guess, is the better way of describing it. And we can find a little bit of peace in all the turmoil out there. So,
Yeah, no doubt about it, no doubt about it. But I think that it was good to address it and just kind of talk about it right off the bat because
absolutely.
because I think it's with the climate out here and um and like, I just wanted to give a thanks to, like I said, to the people that hit me up that they didn't have to, and then especially the ones that just listens to my podcast or and listening to just for everybody else that they want to say that there's their favorite podcaster on GRG or whatever, and then they just come and they want to give me um a shout out or ask me how I'm doing and stuff like that. I mean, that really means a lot. It really does. So thank you guys so much for that. But yeah, no, you want to move on, or you got anything else that you want to
No,
say?
I think that was a good warm up topic for
Good
everything.
warm up topic.
Yeah, for sure. So,
All right.
yeah, I don't know. I already forgot what you had on docket. So, what's next?
All right, well, come on. Let's get right into let's get back into some gaming because I haven't really talked about gaming in over a week. So let's get to it. Let's talk about Phil Spencer, right? Let's talk about just Xbox and Phil Spencer. Now, Phil Spencer brought up something in the article. I did not get a chance to read the whole article, but I already know what was said, and I've heard Phil Spencer bring this up quite a few times. So, and it's going to cause people to ask
Oh,
this
wait a
question.
second. We got Amber here.
Oh, what we do? We do?
Yeah, you got to read out the Amber here.
Okay.
That's the rules, right? It's like super chat on YouTube, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Jazzy Noob, what's going on? He says, respect, Don. He says, keep doing what y'all do, man. Appreciate it, appreciate it, appreciate it. I've tried to uh let Don, I tried to host Don, but of course, Bloody took that over. So,
You just stop the host and you can start it over if you wanted to. But
how do you do that? How do you do that? I don't know.
okay. So there's a little thing, the three dot thing, on the right hand side of the video playing.
The
Okay, hold on.
There should be an
Don.
option to host someone or cancel who you're currently hosting.
There, I gotta get it. Okay, so you said the three buttons. Oh,
The
okay. All right, hit the three buttons.
Don.
You can cancel who you're currently hosting, and you can currently choose whoever you want at that
Ah,
point.
unhost. Okay. Look at that. Don is slick, boy. Slick.
Mm-hmm.
He already knew this. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, we'll go ahead and get that. Oh, there you go, right there. Boy, look at this, man. I tell you, the
The
There,
internet. Mixing.
Don.
sometimes you have to override things. That's just how it
I
goes.
see. I see that. I see that. I see that. I see that. All
Oh,
right, so
whoa! Look, see that? It said host channel to one viewer, so it's actually allowing to migrate viewers over that
yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
That's what it does. That's what it does.
Yeah,
That's what it does.
it was
So,
having problems before, so that's good.
oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All
The
right. So, anyway,
Don.
back to the thing. So, okay, so Phil Spencer brought up this point of saying that the Xbox future uh is really more about the players. Now, I'm ad-libbing because I'm not going to read it word for word, but he's saying that it's more about the players than it is the console. Now, it has people out here speculating that this is the last Xbox. Xbox, that they really don't care about the Xbox, the Series X, because they care more about services than they do the console. Now, I want to get your thoughts on that. Do you think that because Phil is stating that, are these people that's making these claims, are they true, or do you have a different thought about that?
I think he looks at a platform differently than everyone else does, or a certain segment of the gaming population. That's probably the best way to describe it, right?
Mhm.
Services is a platform. A console is a platform. Being the main OS for your PC, platform, right? And they get their business models are different on each one of those platforms, including streaming, right? In regards to that, and it's one of those things. I think with time, people are going to kind of understand that that's not a personal attack to their favorite platform, whatever it is, right? That's just looking at a bigger picture instead of putting yourself in a tiny little walled off garden and continue to grow that walled off garden. It's allowing gaming to naturally grow in each area, because gaming's really, the way I look at it, is it's going to hit that next wave of mainstream, right? Each iteration, more and more people get used to the idea of gaming being a little bit more of a norm. Growing up talking about playing games like when we were in high school, that wasn't cool. That's something you kept to yourself. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And now it's normal conversation, right? It's just like how people look at going to a movie. So that's kind of how I looked at it. And he said there's going to be more consoles after the Series X. He said this for a while. I've said this for a while. And I think when everyone was afraid that streaming was going to take over everything, it's just going to be one other thing on top of everything else, and that's just going to bring more growth, and they're going to help each other out. I mean, that's just kind of simply how it is. I mean, the iPad didn't replace your TV, right? It only helped it, you know.
Right.
So I mean, that's how I look at it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I mean, I've been on this stance for a long time. Like, look, consoles are always going to be important as long as the console gamer thinks that it's important. If the only way that consoles will go away is once that the consumer decides that it's not. And so I just don't see that. I think consoles will be here for at least another 20 years, at least. That's what, two more generate. That's just coming up generation and another generation. So
Yeah, I would have to be face down in the dirt before that's going to happen. So
right.
it's just
So yeah, I don't see it even being and people that was bringing up that point, they probably wouldn't even be interested in gaming at that point. Who knows? I know I'll be a gamer for life, but it's the thing for me is um gaming is so expensive. They have to broaden themselves. They have to get out of just the box and put themselves out there to more gamers, because there's a bunch of people that just don't feel like spending the money for a console or actually playing on a console. Is like my wife. She will refuse to pick up a controller and play a video game, but she's always on her phone. Always on her phone playing the game. And so or I think she is. I don't know. She might be out there doing them. No.
well, yeah, she may
No,
not she may not care about the latency or the timing nearly as much as
no.
you,
Well,
right? Like,
it's the type of games that she play though. So it's like she
but
tried to she tried to download Animal Crossing, and Animal Crossing didn't work really really well. So she went back to the regular
well,
games that
like
she was
I
playing.
use Sea of
But
Thieves as like a perfect example of,
yeah,
like, for example, right? There's so many things that someone can do there, right? Like,
yeah,
she could be on a crew with me or you playing Sea of Thieves, and it's not something she picks up all the time, right? So what's
hmm,
the justification for her having a console for herself, right?
right,
She can stream on whatever device that she feels the most comfortable with, either a controller or a touchscreen controls,
hmm,
and yeah, she may not be the most responsive competitive player, but doesn't mean she can't enjoy herself, right?
absolutely,
And that's the way I've always looked at it. These things are complementary, right? And so sometimes I feel like it's just sometimes introducing somebody to something, right? It's kind of like introducing food to someone, right? Like, I know you'll like this, but you got to be just willing to try it, right? And it's like trying to introduce sushi to somebody, right? So you kind of have to get someone to try it first, and then they're like, oh, now I'm a little more open. I want to try this, or I want to try that, and they find out what works for them. And I also feel like there's a place for lost gamers in streaming. So and some people are just, they're not into like how complex games have gotten. They want something simpler, and that's okay too, right? Like, it all drives home that it's a normal thing we do as entertainment. Just like how we look at music, just like how we look at movies, television shows, whatever it may be. It's just another form of entertainment for those people. So
yeah. No, I mean, like, that's a great point, because I mean I don't hear anyone talking about, well, man, since they took away the CD, music is dead. I
nope.
I, I hope it's not. Like, so I just don't know. Even when they were talking about the cassette, or 8-track. I mean, they're just the consumer themselves decided that the CD and that the cassette wasn't it, and
Well,
streaming music
you
is
know what's
is the thing.
crazy? Records
Yeah.
still exist.
Yes.
So it shows if there's a market for it, and there always will be a market for it, right? Like if records can find a market, consoles can find a market, as far as I'm concerned, right?
Right.
And so it's just not one of those things that and I think they also supplement each other, one another. Like there's no chip manufacturer that just wants to do servers. Like there's money in that, right? But there's more money to create devices that sit under your television or under your computer monitor and servers than there is just doing one of those things. And so it's about expanding all that, and that's what it really kind of comes down to. It's one of those things like when people are afraid of certain things, I just try to remind people not to be afraid. This is kind of how I see it, and I think with time, I think people are going to see it as well in regards to that. But when you make your decisions around the consumer, you guys, right? And you gotta think about it from this perspective. If you're Phil, you're not looking at consumers as well. K Mega is a consumer, so every decision I have to make evolves around K Mega, right? Or he's not going to think like that, right? He's going to think in much broader terms, and what's going to help grow the brand. And it's kind of like imagine Nike shoes only doing running shoes. They do soccer. They do other disciplines, right?
Hmm.
So they do shoes specifically for basketball. They do all these different types of athletic wear, right? So because they want to reach all the audience regardless of what what they enjoy. And it's the same thing I think how Xbox is looking at it. Like Xbox is I think if I was going to tap into Phil's mind, they're looking at Xbox as we want to be the Nike of gaming, right? We want to be the best in class of what we do, but we also want to branch out all these other areas and all these other different types of gamers and make a product that appeals to all of them. And that's what this stuff is all about. So I would say he's going to keep iterating it. There's people who are going to constantly take him out of context. I mean, that's just, I guess, the name of the game of what we see out there these days. And eventually, I think time will tell the truth on all this stuff. So
Right. And then here's another point too. That it's been said for the last, I don't know, 3, 4 years maybe. Ever since they started talking about like, ever since Phil made these stances and said these things, he's so people are saying that well, Xbox is eventually going to turn themselves into a turn them into like Sega. Like they're no longer they're going to put their games on all different type of platforms just because they see that they'll make more money. Do you even think that is remotely true whatsoever? You think that like you could see Halo on a PlayStation 4 or on a Nintendo Switch?
it's an unprecedented business model for him. As Microsoft as a whole, like they're a type of company like if you look at certain companies are dependent on other companies sometimes to do business, right?
Hmm.
For example, like Amazon, even though they don't do their own shipment, they're still relying on UPS and FedEx, right? They're still relying on these other vendors to supply products for them, right? So everybody wants to be the guy at the bottom. And this sounds weird to people, right? But what I mean by that is everyone wants to be the person that you depend on to make your product because you make your product out for everybody by doing that, right? So in the case of the cloud compute area, they want everyone to be dependent on them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Um, in the case of say you're a platform provider, you want everyone to be dependent on releasing your product on them so they get the royalty rights, right? And so when you're in that position where everyone's depending on you, that's how you make all your money, and that's how all that stuff works. So, do I see something like that ever happening? Less there's some sort of partnership there at the bottom and they're making money off every single thing on that particular platform in some sort of form or fashion. That's the only way I ever see that happening. But I don't really think they're in that position. I think they're everyone's kind of dependent on them in different forms or factors and everything you see in regards to Xbox, right? And that's just kind of how that sort of stuff works, right? Everything from cloud compute, right? You see Sony on Azure, right, going forward, and You see other companies that are dependent on Azure. That's the business model. That's how they make money off of it, right? The same thing with things on PC. Even though like some of their games are on like Steam and stuff like that, they still Steam is one of their bigger customers. Does that make sense? And so that
Yeah.
means they make money off of everything off Steam. Does that make sense? So they they want to have that strong relationship there, even though they want to maybe do their own store on the side. Doesn't mean they don't want that strong relationship. So that dependency, that's what they want as a business, and sometimes that's what businesses fight against to get away from. That's, you look at game engines as another good example of that, right? Some people may not want to pay the royalties to Epic, right? So they they make their own engine and invest their own money, and that's how they decided to decipher that money, right? But Epic's a good example where they want everyone to be dependent on their engine, right? Because that's how they make their money. That's how they make their bucks, and they want everyone to be successful on that platform. So I just don't see the business model being like, unless it's those companies are dependent. I just don't see it happening. So I think people are just a little bit worried. They just don't understand looking at it from a big corporation standpoint and how they look at stuff like that. And unless you worked in that environment, it's really hard to understand that. And full credit to everyone that doesn't quite get it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I agree 100%. I'm just if Xbox would or Nintendo or PlayStation, if any of those companies decided to put their games on any one of those consoles, there's a deal going on. There's going to be some other games that's coming from either one of those companies to go on the other console as well. It just doesn't work that way for Xbox to be like, oh, here, you know what? We got Game Pass. We just want to let you have it. Because I made that point on next podcast is that last year, I believe, when this first, well, it didn't first come up, but it was another topic to where we brought it up, and I'm like, Sony would be crazy to just let Xbox just say, hey, let's go ahead and do it, because that would destroy PlayStation Now for the way that PlayStation Now is constructed
hmm
compared to what Game Pass is. Everybody on PlayStation would be jumping all over Game Pass because it's just a better value. Then that would have to make Sony restructure everything that they have to do to try to match what Xbox is doing. Plus, EA Access is on PlayStation now, so they would have to make some changes, and that would just cause a whole bunch of confusion and mess. That just doesn't make any sense. I understand that, for the fanboy war, it's kind of like, well, this is good. This is good banter, so we can get people to think that Xbox is going to just go away with the win and just submit to Sony. But it's not even that. It's just like you said. It's just a biz. It would have to be. It's just not possible. I mean, I don't see Sony ever doing it. I don't see Nintendo ever doing it or Xbox ever doing it, unless there's some kind of merger. That's the only way that I can see it happening. So I don't know.
yeah,
Great point.
yeah. I think people just I think there's people out there that entertain, do similar things to what we're doing, but they play on the insecurities of
Hmm.
gamers, and either do it unintentionally or they do it intentionally. It just I think people need to pump the brakes out there, in regards to that. And I'm never gonna say, hey, point those sort of people out. I'm just gonna present what I know and what I understand, and and if it's the better idea and it's true over time, I know you guys are going to come over here. So I'm not really so much worried about that, in regards to that. Like, a lot of times when Mega, you're worried about things that kind of like, what does it matter? Who are these people? Like, yeah, I mean, we've hung out and stuff like that with some of these people, but the harsh reality is, we're all pretty small fish in a big pond, right? So,
Right.
all you can do is just keep presenting as much truth as out there, and just be respectful of the gamers, and I think it's gonna go well for you in the long run. So, I just people shouldn't worry. That's my take home from that. I'm not concerned about it in one bit. And as a small time developer, like, my favorite place to play is a console. It's the most refined experience that you're going to get with a fixed piece of hardware. That's just the harsh reality of it. Consoles will always be that. in regards to that, and there's a value there that just you just don't get. And even though the PC experience is getting better and it's getting more streamlined, it's still PC experience, and there's pros and cons to that as well. And I don't see that going away either. Like that's the other thing. Remember when people talked about the death of PC gaming? It
Oh
hasn't
yeah.
gone away. It's gotten bigger, right?
Hmm.
So everything's gotten bigger, and so I just time will always tell. Look at history and look at time, and I don't think there's anything really to worry about there. So
No, I totally agree with that. I just wanted to hit you with that and get your thoughts on it. I'm gonna hit you with one that we didn't discuss, and that is Sony. They're having their event here this week. I just kind of want to get your thoughts on what do you think that they might show. Maybe there might be some things you might know about that you might can give us a hint, or you just give us your thoughts on it. Do you think that they'll actually reveal the console? I know the prices because the price wars are serious between Microsoft and Sony right now. So I know that there ain't going to be no price yet. But do you think that they'll finally show off the console? And man, give me a thought on maybe a couple of games that you might think that we might be able to see. I'm going to definitely give my thoughts on a couple of them.
I can't really give thoughts on what games we're gonna
Well,
see.
I mean, you want to guess, you can throw
Um,
some.
yeah, okay. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure I know one that's going to be there, and I'm not going to spill those beans because I want people to be excited in regards to that. Less things have changed since last time I talked to those guys about a couple months ago.
Okay.
But I think a lot of it's weird, right? Because I want everyone to enjoy what what's coming out, right? Let's put away the preference of console just for a little bit, guys, and let's just enjoy it, right? Like I'm not there to trash talk anyone that's really excited about Sony's console or vice versa. Like that's not what I'm there to do. And there will be plenty of time. I'm sure that people are going to do that down the road, but you know. To me, I always look at a console launch as that time where you get to see what everyone's bringing to the table, new ideas, right? New thoughts, expanding on what they couldn't do before into kind of now, right? And so, I mean, you're going to see a lot. It's going to be better visuals, but I think you're going to get that mixed bag where people are going to be overanalyzing you know, what's the pixel fill rate? What was that stream run at, right? Like they're going to, right?
Yeah.
They're going to take things out of context and versus just look at the game and see if it's something that's interesting you and see if it impressed you and you thought it was cool or not, right? Like go in with an open mind, because I think we're all there to enjoy games in regards to that. I think if I'm gonna guess anything, I'm thinking you may see one tease of something that's exclusive to the platform, just to kind of leave people hanging going into another event. I think Sony really has subscribed to that kind of the Apple business model
Hmm.
where they want to show the more final product that you're going to be purchasing much closer to the event. I think they really, really have fallen in love with that for whatever reason. We saw it with the PlayStation 4 Pro. They talked about interest of doing that. I see those same patterns kind of happening right now with PS5, and so yeah, we'll see what's going to be there. But I would say just go in there with an open mind. Don't go in there with hate, and just enjoy it. This is supposed to be the most exciting time of gaming is release of new hardware, and it's something we should all be able to share together. And no gamer should ever feel ashamed to talk about something they're excited for.
Ah,
If you get where I'm going.
yeah. It came to me the question that I wanted to talk about um, tonight too. It just came up when you brought up that point, which you could kind of go into this, which was we'll still continue talking about Sony, but how important E3 how important what is it? Because I mean,
We're
after
gonna find out.
well, I'm saying in the sense of
Yeah.
all these guys, these delays. We're getting stuff all the way in August, And then, just the year before, there were people that were claiming, oh, well, E3 is dead and dying and things like that. But now everybody is kind of in this, oh my God, I'm tired of waiting. I need this. The Xbox thing, yesterday, well, no, it wasn't yesterday, it was Sunday. Sunday, we would have known what Xbox was going to
Hmm.
show because they would have been showed everything. Sony would have showed us something. Uh, would have been today,
It would
actually,
be
tonight. Yeah,
sensory overload already, right?
yeah, yeah.
You and I would have been hanging out at whatever that tower place with Megatron and
Oh
everybody
yeah.
else.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
I mean, and we're about a day away from barbecue.
Yeah.
That's not happening this year. The the thing with E3, it started off as a thing to push products out to retailers, right? Because cartridges took time. A lot of things took time on the production side of things, not just game development, but the actual production of physical products, right, that go into a store.
Hmm.
It took a lot of time, and I think a lot of what Ryan remember from E3 was to get a lot of people up to speed. Media was a lot slower. You had things like magazines, things along those lines, and so we've kind of evolved since there. And obviously, E3 has evolved as well into its own thing as well, where where there's media events that are almost like big blockbuster movie reveals, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of, and it turned into this over the top thing where fans can gather together, and it became this mecca of gaming. So in that sense, it's very very important. But in the other sense, it creates this weird roadblock where if you look at game production cycles, you could push that stuff a little further out. Things to be a little bit more polished, right?
Hmm.
In regards to that, now you have people counting pixels, right? And that sort of crap's never going to go away, right? People are always going to compare that stuff, right? I wish they wouldn't, but they're going to compare that stuff. And so going forward, it's more incentive for these teams to have their products 100% polished and a perfect representation of what you're going to be able to buy that year. And so, you know, it's one of those things. It was a blessing and it also was a curse, right? And that sort of thing. So we're going to see how this pans out for all these companies. And my big concern is if they are very successful. All brands are very successful at this. The question is, why would you go back to E3,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that's the harsh reality, and that's what I'm overly concerned about. But we'll see.
Right. As my boy Steve Goblin said, he liked chalupas. Um, I had to show one. Looked good. Taco Bell. Anyway, so yeah, no. Back to this. I'll get back to the Sony thing here in a second, but I have to say just the importance of E3. I've enjoyed for the stuff that I've seen, but it's not been at any level of what E3. And I mean, I'm just talking from this. I'm not even talking about us being out there. I'm talking about just what we would watch because everything is of course crammed into a couple of days, but it's still everything that we've seen so far. It's still hasn't been on that level of what we would have gotten at
I'll tell
E3.
you what. I tell you what. If E3 doesn't happen the way we think it's going to happen going forward,
Hmm.
we'll see how things pan out with me and my wife getting a new house. Maybe we just have to invite all the boys to come out here.
Yeah.
We're just gonna have a big ass screen, hoot and holler. We'll live stream everyone watching, or we'll go somewhere else. It doesn't have to be my place, of course, right? But um, gather together as fellow gamers and
I think you'll
share
be
that
around a lot
experience.
of bears and mooses and
Yeah,
eagles and
yeah. Listen
yeah,
here.
llamas, yaks. So
Yeah, your Uber's gonna be a giant eagle to pick you up at the
hey, see,
airport.
that's gonna be a big ass bird. I mean, yeah, that's cool. Hey man, you know what? I could live with that because I'm a big guy, so it can only hover so far off the feet. Off, I can
You'll
leave
be
so
like,
far.
man, is there a storm rolling in? And you just see this giant shadow cast over you to pick you up by the shoulders.
What are you, Gandalf? You coming in on a big ass bird like that? That's crazy. Anyway, oh man, but no, man, yeah, it would have to turn into that, to where everybody can still get together, and just experience, the just the
We got to make that happen
yeah,
somehow.
yeah,
If things change,
I hope
we have to figure out something.
yeah,
You
because
know what I mean?
it put me in the dumps. It put me in the dumps when I actually thought about like, damn, I would be. getting ready to get ready to go. So it was crazy. So
Yeah, that's the
I
stuff that got me when I saw everyone's on Twitter sharing their experiences from last year. I'm like, shit, that was like right now. It's one of the reasons why I have time off right now, just so you know. This was all the time off they had planned for E3, and so it was already in the books. So,
yeah,
you
might
know,
as well just take it. Yeah.
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, but no, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. It just to me it's really important because I think a lot of if you really ask a lot of if you give true serum to a lot of gamers, um, that don't have to, let themselves be known on social media. I bet you a lot of them would say, "Yeah, man, it was cool seeing Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us, but man, I would really love to see what played out at an event, at a Sony event where we can all see it together with
That
my friends, or we could be streaming it or
Yeah, we're
whatever."
all hanging out together. There's
Yeah,
an
yeah.
energy that's sometimes it's not captured on film, but it's
Hmm.
tangible. You can feel it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you're also with the people that make the games, and they're excited, right? They're equally excited to show off their stuff, and you get the that's that positive energy where it really feeds off one another.
Hmm.
In regards to that, so the spirit of E3, I hope it lives on in some sort of form or fashion if things change. To be honest with you, but if E3 does go away, I do see the timing be much 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 later in the year. It's not going to be this time of year anymore. Um,
Yeah, pretty much it'll probably be like July, August, because I mean that's
mhm.
right around what Gamescom is, and there would be that adjustment. I mean, of course we would have to adjust, but it would suck because it would take so long. Because what we hear is rumor after rumor after rumor from from probably from February all the way down to August, and that can get draining because that people just kind of like, man, we just want to get something, I don't know, but all
This
right,
would be a hard adjustment
it would
going
be a
from one
really
year.
hard adjustment,
Because once
yeah.
you get past that 1 year, then it becomes kind of normal. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Where like that's the same weight every year in regards to that. But yeah, it's a rough one for sure.
yeah,
So
it's
I
definitely
understand where
rough.
people are coming from on that one. So
Yeah, okay, so back to Sony. For me, I really think that they might show Street Fighter 6. I don't think it's going to be exclusive this time. But I do think that they'll show that is probably maybe a coming up. Just to let people know that it's coming out. It could be a pretty much a launch title for Sony. Um, Gran Turismo, I definitely see them showcasing that. I mean,
you
that's
think
no
they're
brainer.
gonna showcase that, or are gonna wait until they do that other show later?
No,
I'm
because
I'm very confident they're gonna do more than one show.
oh no, 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 I know that too. Because they got to. I don't. I'm sure that they'll probably throw some in July, but I think for showing off, Gran Turismo is not going to get the same type of level of excitement that if let's say that they showed a trailer for Horizon Zero Dawn 2 or something, and that's what you hold on to. That's what Xbox is doing to wait for letting us wait until July.
Are you
But
think they're gonna show stuff that's more than a year out?
oh, absolutely, that's Sony. That's oh yeah, that'd be 3 years out. Yeah, because
No.
if they show Horizon Zero Dawn 2, that game that we just talked about that just a couple of weeks ago, where they were just looking for a person, MMO dev to
Hmm.
work on their game. So yeah, that no, they're not nowhere near done that game. I think, um,
I'm just saying, like, what do you
yeah,
think is their plan? Like, are they gonna show stuff further out, and then
yeah,
my concern, and so everyone knows like where I come from, is anytime you show stuff far out, it's not an actual representation of the final product. It's always the
right,
case, and it is not picking on Sony or anything like that. Like this is the reason why a lot of developers are waiting later and later to show their stuff,
hmm,
is because there's always adjustments made on games, and it's not dog on the game that's balancing performance with aesthetics. That's just kind of how that stuff goes. My question is, are we going to see more of that going forward? So, I don't know. It is going to be interesting. Do you think it's going to be all games, no tech demos?
uh, that part I don't know. I don't know how long the show is going to be. Um, if it's going to be like an hour or so like that, I'm sure that they might show maybe a tech demo at the end or something. I have no idea. Maybe maybe of Gran Turismo, but I think it's primarily going to be a couple of Sony exclusives, but it's going to be all primarily with their second and third party titles. That's why I say Street Fighter is definitely is I think it's a definite to be shown. Um, and then like whatever God maybe more of Godfall. Um,
That's right. I
maybe we
forgot they
might
had the
see
game.
yeah.
Godfall. I guarantee you'll see that.
Yeah, Quantum Error. It also, I think, hopefully we can see something with Soul Aside finally. That from the guy I was telling you about. That's the one developer that was
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you're
built
talking
Soul
about.
Aside. Yeah, yeah. So I think that they'll show a couple of PlayStation exclusives, like you said, maybe to end it off. But it's mostly probably going to be just third party, second party, third party. And even. Um, in those games that they have, they'll probably have some exclusives. I think also because I know that the PC convention or show that I think that's coming out this week as well too. They're going to show Persona, so I definitely think that Sony's going to
Will they
show.
show any of their PC releases?
Ah, wow. You know what? That's a great
They're
point.
due,
There
and
are
I
due.
and I know for a
Bloodborne,
fact there's more
Horizon
games
Dawn.
than you realize.
I know. I already know. Well, I'm
Oh,
not sure.
there are some that I have heard people have not talked about, and they're
What's
I'm
going on with
concerned
them?
about the I'm concerned about the outrage, to be honest with you,
Well, see
because
that,
it
yeah,
shouldn't be about that, right?
no,
Uh,
they should be happy
but
about this because
exactly,
they're
but
gonna they're gonna make a lot of money. Those games are going to have sequels on sequels because PC gamers are going to buy the hell out of those games. So, but yeah, no, the reality is,
mm,
yeah, I
I mean, because this is not just
saw that.
this is not just what's going to come with PS5, right? The
Right.
question is, does it become something? What is Sony's plans going forward, right? Like that.
Hmm.
When are we going to have that talk? Is it going to be this event, or is it going to be a further event? What's going to generate that conversation, right? Or are we just going to ignore it and then release it and forget we did it? Or I mean, what? How's that going to happen? I mean, I think that transparency, I think, is beneficial to them. Just being upfront about it and just
Right.
saying, hey, this is being released. There will be future titles in regards to it, and this is what's
I,
releasing on PS5.
I just don't see Sony. I mean, that would be amazing. I mean, that would be the right thing to do. But like you said, the outrage would be so immense. It would. Oh man, they would go insane. So I think that's what the PC gaming show. That's why I think this, since it's going to be this week too, I think they're going to take care of that. I think they're going to show like the Bloodborns and the Horizon Zero Dawns, the uh, the Kojima game, Death Stranding, and then they're going to show Persona. So, and because I talked about it last year, that there was rumors that they were going to do a remake of Persona 2 and 3. So, and if those games, because I know that Persona 4 Golden is going to be on PC, but if they do those remakes, because I think they might hold that off of PlayStation to show those games on their show, and then if those games are, come to find out that they'll be on PC, then I wonder if Xbox is going to start getting Persona. Is that now like the relate? Because I've said this before too. I said that Persona between, I mean that relationship between Xbox and Sega, it's real, and then people are like, oh, Atlas is different. Well, Atlas is not its own company. Sega owns Atlas,
There's always
and
a
so
parent company,
yeah,
right?
there's
So
always a parent company. So therefore, if they got Yakuza coming over there to Xbox, and then of course you got with SquareSoft. Did I say SquareSoft? Square Enix. I'm thinking of the old school SquareSoft. Square
mhm.
Enix. They're doing the deals with Final Fantasies and got the Kingdom Hearts. It's about time that these Japanese games come over to Xbox. But yeah, no, that would be crazy. I just don't see Sony doing that though, Don. I just don't. I just don't.
I mean, they have to do it sometime. The question is when, right?
Whew. Yeah.
Right? Like they're obviously I know I know the games are out there, right? I
Yeah.
know they're playable. Just so you know, on
Well,
PC
see,
right now,
and
I
then
know
you
for
said
a
it's more,
fact they're
and there's more
playable.
games. And
There's
then there's more
more,
games.
yeah.
Oof, oof, oof,
Yeah, and then
oof.
this, I'm late to the party. Like Randall Thor, he knew about this before I did, and then all of a sudden more and more started coming about it, and yeah, there's a bigger plan there. The question is, what is that bigger plan? What's that vision for Sony? Like that's where I'm kind of curious for, right? It's not,
Mhm.
I want to know how they picture it. We already know how Microsoft pictures it. They already took those lumps on the chin in regards to all that stuff, right? So the question is, how are they going to do it? I just don't know. And so that's where I'm kind of curious. So we'll see where it all goes from there. But yeah, it is interesting. I'm just looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing new games. I always look
Me
towards
too.
other talents to get inspiration for my stuff in regards to that. And sometimes it's the kind of that vitamin B shot that I need
Hmm.
to keep at that grind, if you know what I mean, and raise my individual skill level and what I can do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I think this should be a time of celebration of gaming. And I think those lines, they can be set aside right now. No one's bought anything yet, so just chill out for a sec and let's all appreciate what's going to come out around the corner, if you know what I mean. So
Oh, no, no doubt, no doubt. Because I'm going to be excited either way. I mean, it is. I think it's long overdue. Just like what Elite said in the chat. Like, look, I mean, look, those Xbox games. I mean, Xbox gamers need those Japanese games to come over because there are a lot of gamers that likes JRPGs and like these different type of Japanese titles. I mean, we deserve them. We deserve them as people who's been a part of the Xbox community and has supported these consoles and everything else that
well,
Xbox has done. They have to do it.
you just look at the business model, right? You
Yeah,
develop on
yeah,
an Xbox. Guess what? You've already developed for their streaming platform, right? And a turn-based RPG, that kind of makes sense on a streaming platform. You're not worried about latency there. You're not worried about any of that stuff, right? And you look at the type of audience that reaches, out in the East, that can reach a wider audience than a console. And people don't think about that stuff. I mean, just kind of how that stuff is.
yeah. No, they don't. They don't. And so, I don't. Man, that's a great question though about how Sony is going to approach that with their fan base. I mean, they got to do it at some point, and just let them know, look, this is important, and that's what I was bringing up. I said this in one of my videos. That's why they changed their name to Sony Studios. They were doing the same thing that what Xbox is doing. They want to let people know where these games came from, to where and also that's a great selling point for their consoles as well. If you got a PC gamer, right, that's just got a little extra change and they don't mind playing on console, and then they've been playing primarily their PlayStation Studio games on PlayStation. I mean, on their PC, they're going to be more likely to go ahead and buy a PlayStation if
Hmm.
they're going to get a console if they decide to. I just don't see how
Or
PlayStation.
if they never were going to buy the console, but they still sell the title, right? That's one more
Right.
sell that they weren't making before, right? So
Exactly.
so that's it goes back to that original thing where people the fear of a lot of what it drives people is the fear of not being able to have these things being threatened one another, and they're more of complementary things, and
Yeah.
so I just it's one of those things. It's going to take time. Not everyone's going to be at the same spot at the same time, so it just
No.
takes time. You just got to be patient with the other gamers out there until they figure it out. So
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that was all right. That was yeah, he threw a little something. I knew he was going to throw me something, but I wasn't expecting that.
well,
Man.
that's what, I always throw stuff that you don't
Yeah,
expect.
I know. I was expecting a little game. Well, one game I would hope that Sony would bring out that I've been anticipating even from this gen, at the beginning of this gen, was Wild. Hi, baby. And Wild. I ever since I seen that game, I got excited about it. So hopefully that game will be at least a PlayStation 5 title because I want to get my hands on it. It was really dope. I thought that game was really, really dope for what I seen. So I don't know. All right. Was there any PlayStation games that you would like to see?
Mm. I think it kind of spills into more of what I've seen this generation. I want to see kind of carry forward.
Hmm.
New franchises. Uh, from Sony would be what
Oh, the
1876.
Order 18. Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
a really good game.
like it had potential. Like it's
Yeah,
one of those games, kind of like, and falls in the category of Rise and stuff like that, where they're good games, but they didn't hit their full potential, but they had a
right.
good start. And so I just kind of want to see that stuff kind of go forward in regards to that. So I would be stoked if they had another one of those. I think I really would be. And I think if the other game I would be really stoked when they do show it is Horizon Zero Dawn. That was one of my favorite games on Sony's platform this generation.
Hmm. That no doubt.
Um, that, believe it or not, when I was getting tired of open world games, the two Sony games I liked the most were their open world games, which was Horizon Zero Dawn and Spider-Man. Those were my two favorite from that platform. So
So calm. All right. What's up, Yobi? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? All right, cool. All right, let's get to this one. Digital Direct. There was some people that was bringing this up in a negative light, and so I I, I don't know why everything that's positive always has to come out into a negative light, but that's just the way it is. So if you haven't heard of this from Xbox, it's called Digital Direct. It's to replace redemption codes in your consoles in console game bundles. So basically, instead of using that digital code that you always get to put the game, then you just put in this digital direct code, and it will automatically set everything up to you. It's digital, so it's fine. But where the problem was, where people were trying to say that it would actually um, take away game sharing, which I don't have any idea how both of those are even intertwined because game sharing is completely different than getting your codes. But for some reason, they tried to put a twist to it to where it's like, well, if they are taking away this, then obviously that means that they're going to go with it. They're going to overhaul the whole system, and the system itself is going to is going to potentially take away game sharing. So I'm gonna go, Don. What do you think about this? I mean, I thought that the whole digital direct was is a cool feature. Since people don't use the Connect anymore, well, the
I'm
majority
I'm
of Xbox,
I'm
yeah.
actually kind of a little bit lost. So how does this particular system works?
Okay, all right. So let me go ahead and read it. It says, okay, the Xbox Digital Direct is a new program that allows you to instantly redeem any game subscriptions and exclusive content bundled with your Xbox during the setup process. When setting up a new console, the content and offering attached to the console will appear, ready to be added to your Microsoft account. The the content can also be redeemed after the fact via the account settings page under include with this Xbox along with my games and apps under your full library. This will also be welcome changed
Sounds like you're
to
just linking your library to your
that's
console or
that's it.
to your thing. So yeah, I
Right.
don't understand where they're coming up with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't. They didn't
Yeah.
show any indication of that. Matter of fact, they defended game sharing multiple times to third-party publishers. They showed how it's actually helped sales and not hurt them. So last time I checked, Microsoft is in the business to make more sales, not less. So if it's really true that game sharing does help with game sales, which I believe it does, then maybe we shouldn't worry about it. If
Well,
you know what I mean?
this is
Yeah,
one
it's
thing too, though. It's basically to stop code reselling. So
okay.
I think it's more it's more trying to get gamers to like, well, look, if you got like let's say
You're
for
talking about like CD keys and all that sort of stuff.
yeah, I think it's something like that, or and
Okay.
it's also maybe like
Because that code's
for
100% connected to that account. So when you buy
exactly
something, it has to be a code connected to your Xbox Live account. That's
right,
fine. I
yeah,
don't have any problem with that
right.
in regards to that. I mean, they're still going to allow game gifting. They're still going to like
That's my
why
thing with game gifting.
yeah
Yeah,
well yeah why
but
they
yeah.
I don't understand why people jump to those conclusions. I mean, it's you can't stop people, right? But it's going to happen. And I just don't understand why people jump to those conclusions. They just,
Well, they
I don't
were.
know.
Well, Jazzy Noop was in there. He was like, "It's a game sharing was a convenient accident." Well, see, no, it wasn't an accident. They were going to game share up to 10 players, but the whole DRM thing, where it was going to supposed to check every 24 hours to make sure people's account isn't, doing something fraudulent, got everybody into. Well, I can't say everybody, but got a lot of people in an uproar saying that that's pirating, and then you got to connect, and they're just trying to spy on you, and Big Brothers everywhere. Um, but that's but they were up going to go up to 10 people for game sharing. Can you imagine? I mean, everybody would have hundreds and hundreds of games to play. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Because everybody would be connected to where they're in this huge ecosystem. And just think about that for a second. Just think if they just had 5 to 6 people that you could game share with, and
I just
with
really
with
settle
with
for the
people with
fact that they
yeah
don't need your social security code and all that
yeah
sort of stuff
yeah
to
yeah
put your
like
account on someone's box, right? So you can,
right
right?
yeah
You know,
just
I game
yeah
share with my wife primarily. She doesn't play a lot, right?
right
But I'm not trying to get more games out of the deal. I'm just
yeah
trying to because what happens is it allows us to share our Xbox Live account, right? So I only pay for one Xbox Live, right? And it allows her to play any co-op games for us, and that's kind of where it works out the best for me, right?
right
For example, Bot and Mel, they buy a lot of games. They buy a lot of games that are different from one another, right?
oh absolutely yeah
So there's a lot of benefits there, or like who you game share with is a little bit different. I would, it's funny, this would fly in the face of all this is they find an easier way to game share that it's not so intrusive like it has been, right?
hmm
And it's not so much based on that trust or honor policy as far as all that stuff goes. So um, yeah, it just I don't know how people jump to that conclusion.
yeah
If the benefit is them been selling more, and they defended that policy with third party, and they convinced them multiple times that's helped, and they've agreed to it, then I just don't see it going away.
Yeah, no,
Um,
me neither. And,
so
and then this was crazy because I remember it was kind of like I thought it was like a little dirty little secret when I first found out about it because I watched a YouTuber bring it up, and I was like, oh man, this is dope, right? And so uh, something had well, the person that I game share with, God bless his soul, he passed away in December, but uh, he was having problems with his internet, and so I didn't know what was going on, and I was having problems because I couldn't play because I was just what made me think about it because John Doe brought it up, and I was like, man, what's going on? Why I can't play this game, right? My internet's on. What's happening? Like I got some issues popping. Why I can't play? Because he didn't buy as many games as I bought, but he did buy a couple, and so I was trying to play that particular game, and I was like, I gotta call Xbox. And so when I called him, I was kind of scared to tell him, like I can share, and then so they they was, oh, you game share. Wow, how do you like it? And I was just freaking out, like, oh, so you do know about this? Like, oh, so it is cool. They were like, oh
yeah,
yeah, I game share, and I was like, oh, word. And then so they helped me and let me know what was the problem, and then went from there. But and it was just because my homeboy didn't his internet was off, so what I had to do was take him off my account and then make my Xbox home, and then when he got his internet back up, then we went back to game
life is
sharing
normal.
again. Yeah,
Yeah.
life is normal again. But that like I just don't understand. Like I mean, we missed out on a lot of opportunities this generation what Xbox was trying to provide because I guarantee you nobody would be trying to leave
Do you
Xbox if
think
people if they were
do you
if
think it's
those three
just
people was game sharing
do you
with each
think it's
other.
just
Too many
people
games.
they're feeding on people's insecurities, or they want to get that sort of attention, and they just kind of get hooked into getting attention a certain way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how their reaction is. And there's also a little bit like you're not being real unless you're being overly critical. And it's like trying to drive fast to impress the girl on a date. The
hmm
reality is you still can't drive fast. You know what I mean? So
hmm
it's kind of like that is kind of how I look at a lot of these. situation. So it is what it is. I just then again, I don't spend too much. I mean, if someone brings up a good point, I'll definitely listen and hear them out. But
Right.
I don't see where they're coming from on that. There's not enough factual stuff to back up their speculation there, and that's just kind of the harsh reality. So
Okay. All right. All right. So let's get to this one right here. Your favorite, Don, Digital Foundry. I know.
uh,
I know. Yeah, you can't wait to hear this, right? So
hmm
I didn't listen to the whole video myself, but I seen this being posted, and so I'm going to read this, right?
okay.
So it says Digital Foundry proclaims we're entering the post-native 4K era. Developers no longer focus on native. PS5 Unreal Engine 5 demo defies pixel counting. As I've said for this person was this person that said this. He says it says long time resolution is way overvalued. Altec is going to be huge. Um, the person from Digital Foundry also agreed that PC 1440p is the best. And so, which kind of breaks this point to saying that I guess 1440p is the new standard and native 4K is going to be out the window. I mean, what does this mean, Don? What is this? It confuses me just reading it.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of goalpost moving. To
Mm,
be honest with you, here's the thing: is they made their whole entire business models based on predicating on people of a particular resolution, right? What do they do? They do a pixel count, then it would pause the screen in areas, take some sort of content out of the game out of context, right, and
mhm,
zoom in. Like they did that for how many years? 5 years now.
mhm.
And I've yet to ever hear them talk in a way that makes me think, oh, they know how to weld a vertice of a polygon together, right, to make a model. They don't know. I don't get an impression like they actually know how to do all that stuff, right? Stuff that I do. And so I'm always a proactive of let the developer decide what makes their game play and look the best. It shouldn't you know it is easier when you have a native higher resolution to create an image that everyone notices, right? And you want to cast the biggest possible net, but there's maybe some other things they may want to highlight, and that's always been my approach when the argument was 720 and 1080. It's been my argument when we're going into the Pro and these Xbox uh, One X versions of the consoles. So I mean, it just doesn't change going forward, and then in regards to that. So I think they're talking about the new upscaling technology like NVIDIA has,
Mhm.
which is machine learning based upscaling, and AMD is going to have their own variant of that as well, and that's always going to get better with time. But the reality is, if you can push it, and the question is if the console can push it, a 4K image is going to look better to more people natively than an upscale 1440p image with the same settings, right? Upscaled, right? The key trick is what settings are you going to be able to apply to that engine, and how stable is your frame rate. There's a lot of variables, so right, there's a lot of factors when it comes to this stuff. But I just find it weird that people get so focused on pixel fill rate, or they get focused on certain frame rate on top of that, right? So I think there's just so much more to graphics. There always has been, and these are the guys that benefit from taking things out of context. So I don't really take them as a position of authority on this stuff. I never have, and I don't think I ever will, to be honest with you. So
Hmm. I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It's crazy to me. It's like these weird narratives that's coming out. I don't understand. I mean, I think that maybe what it's about is that um this the whole thought of like the PlayStation 5 and the S, the Series X, games are going to be 60, was going to be 4K 60, and I guarantee you that like Xbox can definitely achieve that with Gears and Halo, uh, well, with not, maybe not with this Halo, or unless they do an enhanced version or something or whatever, because they probably could. But with with their first party, um, but Sony probably won't, because their games are different, and so they'll probably, if they do, they'll go 4K 30, because they'll do that. So more open world games themselves will be 4K 30 and things like that. So I think that if they're saying that, well, since you get all these, all these great particle effects and all of this stuff, and I think we talked about this too, this DLS, this
The-
DLSS
So
or
that's
whatever,
what that. So
1440p,
just so you
the
know,
new gaming
what that
specification.
is, that's just upscaling.
Okay.
It's deep learning super sampling, right? So they're
Hmm.
taking super sampling. They're using basically machine learning to an AI to figure out what's the best way to upscale this to get it close as it possibly can to the native resolution, right? So that's all it is in regards to that. And so, is it one more tool, one more trick in the bag? Sure. Is it the best tool to use in all applications? It's not. Um, will it work better with some games versus others? Sure. And and that's the NVIDIA solution, right? AMD is going to have their own solution as well, right? And
Hmm.
they're on DLSS 2.0. I just tried out Control using it, and to be honest with you, native resolution looks better. It just does. In regards to that, and that's regarding DLS. I don't know if that game supported 2.0 or not. I have to go back and look. I think it does. I think it's automatic with NVIDIA. I can't quite remember on that particular front. But the harsh reality is it's just one more way of upscaling, right? And what it kind of shows to me is they basically don't have the machines to be able to decipher if it's using that or not. That's what it's boiled it down to. And so I think it's just more or less kind of covering their bases as far as all this stuff goes. But then again, it should always come down to the gamer looking at a product, right? Seeing what that experience is and see if that product is better for them or not, right? The
Hmm.
games will speak for themselves. You don't need places like any sort of analytical company looking at this sort of stuff. You're the consumer. Look at the product for yourself. See if you can notice a difference, and if that difference is worth investing in that particular platform or not. That's what these consoles manufacturers. That's their job, right? Is to win you over as a customer. And I think it should always come back to the fundamentals and always should come back to the basics. Yes, there will be 1440p games. There will be 4K games. There will be games at 60. There will be games at 30. It's going to happen. I hate to tell you guys. And also, we're going to see 120 games too, in regards to that. And you're also going to see, things like ray tracing. And I think when ray tracing is used, it's used its best when it's used sparingly, personally. That way you don't hit the big hits on performance, that sort of thing. But it can have a great impact on a scene or a game. It just depends on how you use it in regards to that. So, that's just kind of my take. That's always going to be my take on it, and I think just people just need to, just not worry about this sort of stuff so much. Look at the product, see if it's something for them, and kind of go forward from there.
All right. Cool. 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 All right. Two more, and might as well go with the one that I really want to talk about, and then we'll go into the last topic of, being nice. Because I don't think, because we're definitely on a different thought process on this one. You said I'm on uh, my conspiracy theory, got my little conspiracy theory hat on this,
Yeah,
but okay, this is the thing. I posted something today. I seen it from a from another YouTuber. And they were showing um, the settings, the settings to The Last of Us 2, and it was basically like filter. Well, not like so much filtered, but it was crazy. I've never seen anything that detailed, right? And it, I mean, this is it right here. I'm just going to just come out and say it, because because I was asking a question, basically, like, hey, what do you guys think? And so I went into this point of view as saying, look, I mean, I'm a person that is, I think that when when I play a game, I want to be immersed into the world. I want to know, these intense moments, things like that. And if you have the game settings completely just shut all off to where you have nothing but the full advantage. And I understand it's an option, and I always say that options are good, but I also I don't like every option. So let's get that right too. But to me, it's like
Say you don't like peanut butter on your pizza? It's an option.
no, no, it is an option. I don't like that
Yeah,
option. I
yeah,
think options
exactly.
are good, but I don't like every option. But this
Yeah,
option to
gotcha.
me is, I mean, I get it for the game. It's not a wrong answer either way. It was just like what I was saying when I posted it on Twitter. Nobody's wrong on this. I'm just giving my opinion, and I'm doing the same thing here. Is that I don't know. This almost opens up a slippery slope. And of course, the people was trying to make it out to be something that it was a complete was totally not talking about. They started bringing up the handicapped and people that's disabled and things like that. I wasn't even talking about people that were disabled or anything like that. And they were saying, well, it's all for those people. Well, and so my point to them is that, well, Naughty Dog is not a new studio. Naughty Dog has been out for a really long time. So they should have been had that implemented for forever if that's what they wanted to do it for. What this is to me is, and when I go to the slippery slope aspect of it, is where developers have been crying, well, not developers, sorry, but the media has been crying foul for a while now about games being too difficult for them to review. Like they were talking about, like there was Sekiro, they was talking about Cuphead, they started talking about Dark Souls, they talking about a number of games that were just too tough for them. And how I look at it is like if you're a game journalist, you should already know how to play games. Even if and look, games are tough. I totally get it. Sekiro is not the easiest game to play. I'm not a fan of Dark Souls because it's just too ridiculously hard because of the combat system. I mean, not the combat system, but how the game plays. Uh, but I still respect it, and I respect anybody that plays those games. And I don't think that those games should be changed. What I feel that could be, what could open Pandora's box, is that the media can fall in love with this, and that Naughty Dog gets their wish because they'll have so many reviewers going crazy over it because of these options, and then they're going to demand people to jump all over this and want to demand developers to try to do the same thing.
So you're
And
concerned
that's
about
where,
the
yeah.
slippery slope.
Right. I'm not. Yeah. I mean,
You know,
whatever they want to do, whatever not, it's their game. They do whatever they want to do with it. I just don't want every game to have those type of, because we already have options as it is. We have intermediate, we have normal, we have hard, we have ultra hard, and that should be this. But settings to turn off for people to jump to come out and attack you, like, I mean, like, it was so thorough of how they wanted the game to be. So basically it's like you could turn The Last of Us 2 into nothing but a movie that you
well, I
just
mean,
walk in. It's crazy to me.
well, let's draw a parallel.
Yes.
So you know why you have all the settings on your PC, right?
Yes.
The reason why they do settings on graphics for your PC
Hmm.
is just enough to move a needle in big chunks, essentially, right?
Hmm.
And so you can optimize for the performance profile that you currently have, right?
Hmm.
And the reality is they don't really fine tune a lot of that on your PC, right? They try to make it run as good as possible, but at the end of the day, they just kind of just like toss you to the wolves. You figure it out, right? So what
Hmm.
it is a non-optimized game for your particular piece of hardware. That's what it is. And that's why on console you don't really see a lot of those options because they're optimized the experiences for that particular performance profile. They know what's going to look and how what's going to make it play the best on that particular piece of hardware. So when I see those sort of sliders on difficulties, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But it's only I don't really think there's anything wrong with it as long as you have the standard difficulties where everything's optimized, right? So the game is as fun as it possibly can be, right? Um, but I mean, there's examples of this even on Forza, for example, where like you barely have to steer. In regards to that, like it literally sticks like it's like a slot car.
Hmm.
And it makes games more accessible, right? But they have standard difficulties that you can change in regards, or they start you in kind of a general spot, and then you can kind of shift it from there. Halo's a little bit different where they have the standard difficulties and then you can add skulls for additional difficulty
Right.
in regards to that. So I'm not against this as long as they have preset balanced experiences for people that just want to hop in and play these different difficulties because the whole point of a game like this, right, where it's a story driven based game is you don't have to go in and out and fart around with that sort of stuff, right? You just go in and you play and you have that experience. And instead of keep going back and forth in and out of the game, oh, I didn't like, now I'm getting owned, whatever it may be, in regards to. But I also, back to the conversations like Amy Henning had and stuff like that when she worked
Hmm.
at Naughty Dog, a lot of people are not going through and experiencing the whole entire game. So there is an issue that the industry has to address. And this may be Naughty Dog's attempt at that. I'm always going to give people always the benefit of the doubt, regardless of studio of what they're trying to accomplish. Um, but I do hear you on the review portion of things. I think that's always a little weird when they want things to be so easy because that's not necessarily a fair representation of the final product that every consumer is normally going to play and get. So you do have to be somewhat competent in playing games because any other job you probably would be fired. To be totally honest with you,
Right.
if you can't do the job, right? So I mean that's just kind of how it is, right? Like if how would it be if I go to work? It's too difficult to model characters anymore, video game characters anymore. Be like, well, that's why you're here. You know what I mean? Like, we want you to put your best work and you want you to compete with what else is out there. They'd be like, but I don't really want to do it. How do you think that's going to go? It's not going to go well for me if I did that, right?
Hmm.
So it's the same thing with these guys. So then again, if it's accessible for other gamers, it gets more people through the game. I am for it. If they have optimized actual performance profile, not performance, but difficulty profiles, I'm for that as well. With this additional, that's fine. But if they skip those optimized difficulty experiences, right? Those profiles, and this is what they did instead. I don't think that's really a refined experience in regards to that. And I don't know all the details of that. This is all third-hand knowledge, right? So
Right.
we'll see how it all pans out as far as all that stuff goes. And I understand the slippery slope aspect of things, where you're kind of coming from, but I just don't
Right.
think every developer is going to go this way. I think developers ultimately want to have gamers have the best possible experience on their games, and they're all going to go for that optimized experience as far as the difficulties go, and so people have fun. And they have people of different skill levels that come and test games all the time, right? So there are people that big publishers will have certain people that are kind of not overly great at games. They'll give their views and their opinions on there too as well. So that's just kind of how that stuff works. So I know like EA does that, for example. So we'll see. In regards to that, then again, it's a game that hasn't been on my radar, so I'm not going to overly criticize it because I'm probably not going to play it, to be honest with you. So,
Well, I'm not criticizing it. I'm not criticizing the game.
mhm.
I'm just nervous about the situation within what that could lead to. Because for one, it's it's because it is kind of going media based for me. Is because first off, you know that most of them that's going to review the game is going to play it on that easy setting, and then they're going to say, "Oh, it's the best game ever. Here's a 10." Well, you didn't experience the game like it was supposed to be experienced to give it a 10.
Well, there's no
And
accountability for those guys, right?
that's what I'm
That's
saying.
that
There's no
that I can
accountability,
see. Yeah.
and there's no accountability. Then also, I see people that brought up the situation about the handicap things like that. Listen, I've dealt with a lot of people. I've gamed with quite a few people that has disabilities. Don's seen know that we play know what I play with one of them. He
Yeah, we
comes on
both do.
yeah,
We both do.
on Sunday Night Fight.
We're not gonna call him out because that's
Yeah,
his
yeah, yeah, yeah,
business,
yeah,
right? But
yeah, yeah.
but
But there's other
you
guys that
you
came
would
in
never
too
know.
that you heard, yeah, yeah, that you would never know. And then there's other guys that's come in that they maybe pop in and say, hey, what's up, Mega? And those people have disabilities as well. So not all of them, but some. And I've never heard one person talk about, well, man, I would like games to be easier for me to get it. And I understand not every game is for everybody. Well, that's what I say overall is that not every game is for everybody. But I get that there's some people that has more disabilities than others. But to me, it's kind of like I had a discussion with somebody. He said his kid was autistic, and even the games that has the easier settings, he still has a hard time with it, things like that. And so I told him I respect his views on it because he, like, again, he jumped off the handle. He thought I was trying to lower rate and say that people that are handicapped, they're on their own. But when I explained it to him, it's like, I respect your point. I'm not arguing and saying you're right or wrong. I'm just giving my opinion. But how I look at it is that I don't believe in participation awards. I just don't. I don't think that and it takes away from the learning skill from each individual that don't have any type of challenge. If you go in life without having any challenge and then step yourself into the real world, how is that going to affect you at the end? And I feel like those things, even though it's a video game, it's still a part of life. Like, you have to have some kind of challenge.
Hmm.
And if some people just want to breeze through it because, hey, I just got off work, I just want to get it done, blah 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 blah, you sold yourself, and that's your opinion, that's your money that you spent. But I just look at it differently. And so I just like, man, and I just think that the media will try to push this narrative for those type of filters. Look, you don't have to agree with me, and for people that's been listening to me for a long time, I'm still gonna keep my stance on it. I ain't changing. But I'm not saying that people are wrong for agreeing with what Naughty Dog is. That's the first thing.
Well, I
That's
just
the
want
first
more
thing.
context, right? Like before
Yeah,
I pass
yeah,
judgment personally, because as
right.
I said, like it's predicated if they have
It just makes me nervous.
they have standard difficulty levels, I have zero problem with this. I really do because yeah, at that point, that individual's cheating themselves, right?
Yeah.
Like if they're cheesing it, right?
Hmm.
And then the people that want a more difficult experience, right?
Right.
But it also paints a weird light. Some people will judge this game unfairly in a negative way because they toggle that stuff down. But that's the stuff that happens, right?
Yeah.
And you can't control. One of the thing is when you make a game, you really can't control what the gamer does. That's what something you
Right.
learn really really quick as a developer, right? You set these rules and you set these parameters, but at the end of the day, you can't tell a gamer they're playing something wrong. That's just not how that sort of thing works, right? So,
Hmm.
if their heart's in the right place, I'm always going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I understand where you're concerned about media. But I mean, when's the last time have you ever looked at a media review and you purchased a game based off of it?
Oh, it never
Yeah.
anymore.
So
I'll
what
look
is
at
a
them, but I
so
won't.
then again, what does it matter? So
Well, I
that's
mean, but other,
there's their opinion against your opinion at that point, and
yeah, but
you're
I'm
playing the game and you're actually doing it, right? So
Yeah, I only have like about close to like 4,500 people that pay attention to me on Twitter, and they have millions. So I'm just a small fry. I'm not even a big
yeah,
fish. So
I
it's
gotcha.
so the thing of it is that, look, I just, so if they come out and they show that, there's going to be, out of those millions of people that listens to them, will take their advice, and it's going to be, again, more misleading because some of those journalists aren't going to play the game like it's supposed to be played. And I know some will, but not all of them. And and that for a fact because we've seen we've seen how they played games and how they react to games. And I just don't want developers to get into this point to where they got to be trapped in a corner because the media wants to push this narrative
Well,
and say,
yeah,
look,
but how
Naughty
long are they
Dog is
gonna?
doing this, and they're one
To
of
be
the best
honest, how long are
developers
they
out there.
gonna be
They should
around
do
though?
this. I get that, but I'm just saying that's just, I got my tinfoil hat on.
Well, my thing is just let them
I'm on
choke on
my
their own
Alex Jones
words.
right now.
Yeah, I got you, but like, just let them choke on their own words, right? Like,
Yeah.
the question is, we're talking about free markets earlier when we're talking about consoles, but like,
Yes.
think about the free market of ideas or opinions, right?
Hmm.
When it comes to gaming, you know, they don't own a monopoly on it. It may seem like it right now, but what happens when they no longer have that umbrella? And yeah, they may have some followers on Twitter or they have some YouTube views or whatever it may be.
Hmm.
But the overall engagement on their website's dramatically down. If I showed you the numbers where they were prior to this generation, and now they're at an all-time low that I've ever seen them. So like, it's just it's a matter of time, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I can, try to argue with, a media outlet all I want, but that's not going to do me any good in my position specifically, right?
Right.
It's going to come off incredibly defensive and stuff like that. And I think that how it comes off of amongst gamers because some gamers look at these outlets as, and I think that's where a lot of your frustration comes from. A lot of gamers look at these outlets like they're the position of authority, like they're
Right.
the opinion that matters. And maybe,
Yeah.
maybe to some, right? Like definitely for some, but eventually, when they feel like they haven't been treated right numerous times, what's going to happen, right? Gamers will eventually just say, you know what, there's other places I can go find my information, right? And so I don't. So I said it like I never tell people like don't go to this media outlet or that media outlet. It's a natural thing. They will fall off and other things will float to the top. That's just kind of how all that stuff works. So we'll see how all this goes. I don't worry about it. I see where you're coming from on that. But they're just a small voice themselves in the grand scheme of how many gamers are out there, in regards to that. So, and every time they whine about that, I mean, how many times do you lose a little bit more respect for them each time? Like I think
Right.
a lot of gamers do, in regards to that, and they try to, it's more or less kind of a virtue signal type thing, versus just reviewing a game and giving their opinion. So, I mean, there's just not a whole lot to worry about. I don't think.
I got it. I got it. I got it. I still, I mean, I got it. And I knew that we was on the opposite side of this. And again, I just wanted to make this point. I'm not telling, I'll never tell anybody not to buy the game, not to support it,
Mhm.
or you're wrong because you think everything is fine with that. Like I said, there's not a wrong answer on here. I just wanted to hear people's opinions on it, but it just kind of threw me back that people was, oh, you're an outrage. I'm not outraged by it. I just worried that this could affect other games down the line, and I don't want that to happen because what you were just saying earlier, about these devs could be worried about more about trying to appease to get this point, to make sure that all this stuff is taken care of, and then they miss out on other key components that they normally would be worried about, and then the game is messed up because of that feature that normally wouldn't even have been something that was on a thing. It's like that's why I just keep it easy, normal, difficult, high difficult. And now also on this too, you brought up the situation about the skulls.
Mhm.
If The Last of Us wasn't, if The Last of Us was like, if you beat the game, then all of these options are available, I wouldn't complain at all. I'd be saying, oh, that's dope. You see what I'm saying? Because I was like, oh, you
As a
earned,
reward,
it's a
sir.
reward. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The participation award stuff. Like I never got into it. You can call me a horrible father, but I told you Don earlier that I
It's
look,
a
my
principle.
son,
No, I don't, and I
it's a
agree with.
principle with
I
me.
agree. I
You
agree with
didn't
that too.
you
You
didn't
like.
win. You didn't win, so this award means nothing.
Well, let me
You know what
ask
I'm
you this.
saying? That's
So,
that's crazy. Well, my son
so,
is he's a man now, but when he did it, it
so
was like what? And it changed him. It changed him for the better, though.
well, let me ask you this though. So, like, obviously, let's take them at their word.
Yeah.
They're obviously trying to make it more accessible to a
Hmm.
more different variety of gamers, right? And I
Yeah.
think that should always be commended. But if this is not the answer, what is the answer for those people that would struggle in that area?
I would already thought that that's what it was. Like, I mean, easy mode is the perfect mode. I mean, I don't see kind of gutting the game completely to be just a interactive movie is my thing of helping uh anybody that has any type of deficiencies. I don't know. I
Well,
mean, it could,
well,
but
if you talk about
yeah.
deficiency, everyone's situation is different, right?
Right, right,
And
right.
some affect people in different ways, and
Hmm.
in regards to that. So the question is, what is Naughty Dog to judge that? They're not really in that position to judge. So if you look at it from a perspective of, okay, well, we're just going to give you all the tools that we have when we made the
Hmm.
game, and for these people that have these needs, I think that it should be an admirable thing in regards to that. So yeah, I get where you're going from from the media perspective and stuff like that. I
Hmm.
think that stuff works itself out. I think good, talented people that give honest views that people can relate to will float to the top. There's going to be new stars in the future. It just always is, right?
Right.
If you get where I'm going.
Yeah.
And some of these bigger media outlets. I mean, the harsh reality is the candle's burning at both ends. It's just that's just the harsh reality. So I don't know if they're going to adapt or not. Maybe they will, but we'll see where that goes. But I don't worry about those opinions, right? At the end of the day, the only people that matters from a developer standpoint of view is, are the people that buy our products having a good time? Are they enjoying themselves? And if you are, and then that's mission accomplished. And if we can reach out more people, that's a mission accomplished. So, yeah, I get where you're coming from on that, and it is a segment to pay attention to.
Ah,
But I think
I
it's a
can't
thing.
wait to talk about hear this on GRG because
Yeah, but I think it'll sort itself out though.
oh
I
yeah,
just really think I think
hopefully
it
it will.
does over
Hopefully it
time.
will.
Yeah, for sure.
And my last point on it, listen, if now people that was on this kick about, well, you got to think, they're thinking about the people that disabled and things like that. Well, I hope Naughty Dog keeps that same energy, and every game that they come out with will have that
Going
uh,
forward, sure,
going
or
forward.
or adaptation of that, right? That'd be great as
Right,
well, right?
right.
So
If they don't, then we know that they lied. That's all I'm
yeah,
saying. That's all I'm saying.
so I mean, but that's let's kind of see where it goes. And it's,
Well, yeah, I mean,
sometimes you don't know if you're
time will tell.
so
I
yes.
will completely, me. I'll say if I'm wrong, I'll say, look, man, I was wrong. They're doing this to all their other games here in the future. Their cause is just. I made a mistake. I made a mistake. I have no problem of saying that I was wrong, but if they don't start implementing that into like the next Dexter and Jack or whatever
Well,
Jack and
let's
Daxter,
let's
whatever
say
they
Naughty Dog, whatever their
whatever they
Naughty
call it.
Dog's
Yeah,
next game is,
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
every developer may have a different approach with their
Well, yeah.
product.
Put
Yes,
it
so
on every game.
yeah,
You're
because
stuck with it now.
well, Microsoft doesn't have the same approach with all their
I
studios, right?
no.
So
Well, I'm
nor
saying,
does
well, okay.
Sony.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, just Naughty Dog games. I'm not
Yeah,
saying all Sony games.
yeah.
Anyway, all right. So I was making you uncomfortable. That's all.
No, no, no. I was talking about it. I mean, that's just kind of how I feel about it. Like, I just feel like there's a lot of opinions out there in the gaming space, right?
Hmm.
And so the basic element, freedom of speech, let people talk, let them have their, and if they have a bad idea, they have a bad idea. just, just let it be. Like, you don't even need a council culture or anything like that. Like, chances are, if it sounds like a bad idea, it probably sounds like a bad idea to a lot of people. Does that make sense? And you have enough of those bad ideas eventually that, it's a house of cards. It falls on top of them. That's just how I've always looked at it.
Okay. All right. So yeah, you'll hear this topic here Friday night on GRG. I can't wait. And some of these other topics too as well, because Sony will have their event, and then we'll definitely talk about that. But we have one last topic to break down, and that is this right here. What franchise introduced this gen would you like to see going
Oof.
into the next gen? Go ahead, let me know, Don. Let me know. What games would they be?
Well, on the Sony side of things, Order 18 was 1886.
86? Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of mine. And then I also mentioned Horizon Zero Dawn. I want to see a sequel to both of those. Um, Even though I enjoyed Spider-Man, I can care less if there's a sequel or not. Honestly, and it wasn't introduced this generation, so it doesn't count. Um, on the Microsoft side of things, I want a new Rise. I want a new Rise so bad. I feel like there's so much potential, and one I'm already getting a sequel to, so I'm super happy about it, which was Hellblade.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
those are kind of my big ones in regards to that. I look at all good games, but they're games that you play, you realize there's more potential there. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And you can tell, like, given more time, they would have even took it to a further level. But in this case, they have another iteration to do it. Um, Quantum Break is one of those ones too. I I think the formula between the live acting and the gameplay needs to be balanced out a little bit.
Mhm.
But I really enjoyed it for sure.
Sleepy Goblin says, Don, you could just make us a new Rise.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't have the intellectual property rights to that, so unfortunately I can't.
Well, you can make it. You can make it. You can make a game that's like Rise and call it Mega.
Well, no, I'm not doing that.
Why not?
But
Why?
I do have some plans. I'm gonna, I want to
Oh my
break new
goodness.
ground. I want to
Oh, you'll
break,
break the ground.
I want to break new ground. I want to do my own thing. Do something that, that's a little bit
Mhm.
different. So,
I got you. All right. People in the chat, let us know what franchises would you like to see that came out this gen that you would like to see again. I got quite a few, but I mean, the ones that you already pointed out, yeah, those are musts. I don't know if they're a must, but what they're a must for me. I definitely would like to see the Order 1886. I actually really like that game. It reminds me of Rise in the sense of has all the potential in the world. It just, it was the first game of the franchise, and so but it hit well. I thought it was really cool. I really enjoyed that game. Until I kept having to fight that werewolf at that one part.
oh, that was the best stream I've ever watched in my life.
Oh my God! And people, and then I forgot who that was that kept hitting that button every time, and I kept dying. Oh my God! But it was great though. It was great. Um, because I beat it. And then of course Rise. Yeah, Rise is life. I love Rise. Um, that story was amazing. Um, Gosh, boy, that game. I'm just thinking about it right now. Just have a big smile on my face. Rise was so great. Quantum Break for sure. I go back every once in a while and just go back and just check it out, play it a little bit, and I'm just like, man, why would people even say anything negative? This game it was cleverly done. It was dope. It had TV thing to it. I mean, it was so dope. And of course, Killer Instinct. That has to come
But
back.
that's not a new one though.
Right, right, right. Okay, Recore.
Ooh,
Uh,
didn't think about Recore.
yeah, I thought Recore uh it was a cool game. Yeah, it wasn't the best game of all time or anything,
Do
but it
you
was it was
do you
cool. I,
want
I
something
liked
of
it.
the same caliber, or do you want it to kind of transcend the next quality level, like in that
Uh
AAA quality level?
oh yeah, 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 yeah. No, it definitely need polish. It definitely needs to get pushed up to the to to a AAA title. I mean, it had so much potential. Like, I mean, I just think about it right now. Like when you go through those dungeons, uh, you know, all the colors and the platforming. Like Xbox didn't have anything like Recore, and that to me was that's what me I thought it was special. It's just that it just fell flat. It had that situation when people did play it. It was broken at that one because you couldn't get that one particular robot, and that just led you to just have to put the game up until they actually patched it, which was way down the line. And that game definitely needs a redo. It just needs to come back because they presented it and then that was it. They just didn't give it the same type of love what they would for a Forza Halo Gears. That's the one thing I wish Xbox would do with all of their games coming into this generation. This new generation is show love for every last one of them. I don't care if they're big AAA bangers to just a little indie game that looks like something from the 80s. Show that love and respect for all of those games
The
because
sequel, the
yeah.
sequel train that we missed out on this generation. If you're primarily playing on Xbox, like there wasn't a lot of sequels going on.
Mm-mm,
To be
no.
honest with you, we didn't really see a lot of sequels from Sony, did we? Except for Knack.
No, I mean, Infamous was a sequel. GT Sport,
Yeah, but
was
it
a
wasn't like
sequel.
anything that was introduced this generation
All
that we
right.
saw a sequel of, unless I'm
Well,
mistaken.
Until Dawn was a really good game. I was going to say that, but that's already been confirmed that that's a sequel coming to that
Well, that's
though.
not. It has nothing to do with the quality of the game as much
Yeah.
as they introduced a game that's new to this generation, and I can't think of a single one that's been a sequel though. right? Like, for example, Horizon Zero Dawn is a new game they introduced this
Mhm.
generation.
Mhm.
Order 1886. I always get the year mixed up, so if it's wrong, I do apologize to everyone that's listening. But we didn't see sequels to either one of those. Is there another one that they introduced this generation that we saw a sequel to?
Trying to think.
I'm just seeing if I missed something.
Well, I mean, okay, well, there's Shadow of Colossus, but that was all. That game already.
That's a
Was a,
remake. Yeah,
that's a remake, and that came out on PlayStation One.
yeah, not taking away from what it was, but it wasn't. It's not
Um,
something that was introduced this generation,
right.
and they had a sequel. I can't think of a single one.
Well, I mean, yeah, just Horizon Zero Dawn, and then there's
They introduced new games, and those games are good, but we didn't like previous generations. Let's take Gears for example, right? Or let's what is that one game that Insomniac used to make? It was that shooter. I forgot what it was called.
Max Payne.
No, it was
Oh, you said Insomniac. Are you talking about
Resistance. Was it what it was?
Oh yeah, 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 Resistance. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, you
Resistance,
talking about?
for example, like on the PlayStation 3 generation, we had multiple versions of that game, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Same thing with when they introduced, you know, Naughty Dog's first game, right? Or not first game, but uh, Uncharted, right? They had several sequels of Uncharted in that generation, right?
Mhm.
But it was introduced that generation. I don't think we've seen a lot of that this generation from either
I
platform
guess The Last
provider.
of Us would be that game.
Not really, because it was introduced last generation, and we're getting a sequel this generation.
Well, Ghost
Yeah,
of Tsushima.
but we never saw a sequel.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, I'm just because it.
Timefall is a good example of one we did see a sequel of, but that was third party. I don't think any first party that we introduced. This is if someone can correct me on Twitter, I actually encourage it because I'm totally blanking. I can't think of a single
Yeah, I'm
game,
trying to think.
a new IP that was introduced this generation that we got a sequel of from both platforms. I
Hmm.
can't I can't think of a one.
Maybe. Oh no, that was a package deal. That was Gravity Rush. That came bundled together actually. Mm, only game that I could think of, and it's a fighter, and that's uh, Guilty Gear, but that's an old title too, so that's been
Yeah,
out forever. I
yeah,
I
like a
I don't
new
know. I can't think.
because every generation new IP is introduced by the platform
Yeah.
providers, right?
Mhm.
And usually those end up being tentpole franchises, and they help build the brand up. Does that make sense? And you
Yeah.
see sequels within that generation. I can't think of anything that falls under that criterion this generation.
Well, I can say I can go with Elite and say Titanfall because Titanfall was an Xbox IP, and then they
Well,
went
it
away
was a
with that.
third party. It wasn't, it wasn't like because like the sequel wasn't exclusive or anything like that. Just the
No.
first one was.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a weird one. Like it gets close. That one gets close out of everything.
Yeah, because we
But
ain't seen another Sunset Overdrive.
no, that's a one and done.
Yeah. Well, you don't think it's gonna come back?
Well, not on Xbox,
No, no, not on Xbox, but I'm
but
just saying, I think it's gonna come back.
I don't really think it's going to come back personally, but we'll see. Yeah,
Okay.
on that front. But yeah, I don't. But we didn't get sequels to new IPs. New IPs we got this generation. We never got a sequel to any of them.
No, we didn't.
That,
Which
that's kind of a disappointing thing if you look back at
really
it,
does.
right?
Yeah, because this has been
We had
out this
three
whole
gears.
generation. Yeah.
We had 3 gears on the 360 generation, right? We had a whole trilogy of a new game. You had, what, 3 Uncharted's with the PlayStation 3.
Hmm.
Several different Resistance. Um, so yeah, I mean, several different kill zones.
Yep.
Yeah, that is something that we just didn't get this generation. That's kind of disappointing. Hopefully that changes next generation. We
Yeah.
get a new
Hopefully, well,
IP that we get some
it's gonna be a
sequels.
long enough
Yeah,
generation for sure. So yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Yeah, no, that was kind of crazy, but yeah, that was a good point. I don't know. Yeah, people definitely will let us know on Twitter, and also when I upload it, let us know uh, then too. Trying to think of another game before we get out of here. Ooh, um, that game is old. Because I really liked. Man, yeah, no, I now you got me stumped on that one, on that. So I'm lost now. So I'll just have to give it.
This is something that no one has ever thought about this generation,
Right,
right?
right.
Like, we always like looking this time and looking at reflecting back at the generation. I also
Hmm.
look and see what's going to come around as a gamer and a developer. So, it's a lot to think about, right? So, but yeah, it is interesting, for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
We did
yeah.
receive sequels, but they weren't products. There were new IPs introduced this generation, and then also we received a sequel in the same
Yeah, no,
generation.
all the sequels were third party.
Yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't no. Yeah, that's crazy. So that just tells you how long that these first party games take and all that. Yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
pretty wild.
Yeah.
All
Absolutely.
right. Well, yeah, all right. Well, I guess we can get out of here. So let everybody know where they can find you at, Don.
Yeah, the best place to find me is, well, on this Mixer channel. So if you're catching this later on K-Mega's YouTube channel, it's Don underscore KTR. I think my gamer tag's kind of like the same thing. My Twitter handle is the same thing. And there's gonna be more stuff popping up down the road, but as of right now, those are the places to kind of see what I'm doing in regards to that. And then usually I'm co-streaming with this guy in some sort of game, co-op or otherwise. And yeah,
No doubt, no doubt. All right. And as for me, you can catch me on Mixer. Usually a couple of times a week. I probably will have to start kicking in gear, man. I'm off for another 6 weeks, so after talking to the doctor, so I'm just gonna live my best life.
another 6 weeks.
Another 6 weeks until
Damn.
July 23rd. So yeah, so yeah, I might as well
Yeah,
start.
you're gonna be at 800 followers before I get to my 500.
I don't know, man. I hope so, but I mean, no, you'll grow with me. We just need to
I'm
just
not worried about
do,
it.
do more together, and then they'll get it out. I mean, we just got lucky that one night and just had somebody just
Yeah, that was a
just
cool night. Shout out to all those guys that
yeah.
rated us.
Shout out to
In
that
regards to,
rated us, man. That was
yeah, I
awesome.
wanted to say something on Twitter earlier, but I'm like, man, like, because all the crap hit the fan with everything going on with the protest and
Yeah,
everything else. And it's like, it didn't feel like it was the right time to talk about that. But you wanna say thank you to those guys that help support you and help you guys out. So yeah, shout out to all those guys that did the raid. That was totally unexpected. It was a cool experience. It put
that
a
was
smile on my face.
really cool. It was awesome. Yeah, man. Thank you, Ben. Bless y'all.
Appreciate it.
That was really cool. Oh yeah, I did want to just real brief before we do go. I have to get your thoughts on this. The whole Twitch situation. That was another thing that I want to get. I'm not even going to give no
The
feedback on
DMC
it myself.
takedowns.
Yeah, the takedowns. What do you think about that? And what does that say about the opportunities for Mixer?
It's gonna be interesting. I mean, really, the business model, the American dream, right, is
Hmm.
to uh, put a lot of work into something and then have that thing work for you, right? That's like, and that way you don't have to work as hard again. And so if you look at if you look at like Twitch and you look at YouTube, it's a system, right? They're building a system that kind of almost runs itself for the most part, right? And with that, there's always going to be exploits in regards to this. So this is a situation where I'm not as 100% up to speed on it, but basically, people can shut you down. They don't like your view or they don't like your opinion, and it can be all tied to music, and it can be tied to other content that they don't want allowed to be streamed. And so it is very interesting. I think eventually, someone's going to poke the wrong bear, the wrong streamer that has a lot of money that can defend themselves, if that makes any sense.
Hmm.
Like imagine if you know, let's say a ninja got nailed for that for some. He's not on Twitch right now, but right, let's say he got nailed for that. You know, he's got the bucks to go after him if they're in the wrong, right? So,
Hmm.
it's going to be interesting. I think it's just one of those things. They just cast the biggest possible net, try to recuperate their costs as much as possible, and they don't care who gets hurt in the process, right? And that's unfortunate. So I'm hoping that, since Mixer is tied to Microsoft, then there will be pressure on Mixer down the road as they grow. That they can do like a little bit more, kind of leverage that Azure and do that machine learning, right? Where they
Hmm.
can, you already seen this with NVIDIA graphic cards, where they can tune out all the background noise.
Right.
In regards to that, imagine they're able to implement that to music and other sounds like that. It just mutes those things on your stream, you know, and then those people can't go after you. Things like that, like I see as real possibilities, and I think Microsoft's in an interesting place to leverage that. But they have to build up stuff for that to actually occur and for that stuff to actually happen. It doesn't happen on its own. So
Right.
we'll
Yeah.
see where it
Yeah.
goes.
There's a
See,
lot of smart opportunities.
yeah,
Yeah,
still there?
just because I enjoy it. I mean, this is what actually got me into wanting to stream was coming over here and then like showing the four screens at once and the crazy interactions of how you can do things and all of that. No, I think it's dope. But like I said, I'm not going to get into full give my whole thoughts about it. We'll talk about that on GRG. All right, guys, you can come and check me out on the GRG podcast Friday night, 8:30 on Mixer, and we'll upload it on YouTube probably Saturday or Sunday. So look for that. But yeah, we'll be back, and I hope everybody has a good, safe night. Catch me out on Twitter too at KMega4. And come holla at me, man. It's all good. And well, I guess to say my gamer tag is KMega45.
Or if you watch the stream, it's flashing throughout the whole entire stream. So where to
Yeah,
follow us on YouTube, Mixer, and all that sort of stuff. So and
yeah,
Twitter. So
yeah.
all right,
And next podcast on every Saturday night at the Lord's time, 6 Central. So go ahead and check us out there. So
all
no
right,
doubt.
cool, absolutely. All right, guys. Later, I'm gonna hit that button.
Bye.